Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Annalisa and today I am doing a vlog for part of the Battle of the Books of March, which was created by Angela of Literature Science Alliance. And there are two titles on here that I think are going to be the biggest contenders when they come up against each other. So the concept is that this is like March Madness. You're trying to predict which of the books you read this month are going to be your favorites and which are going to be each matched up against each other better than the others. And so I think the biggest contenders this month are going to be Raybearer by Jordan Ifueko and Ninefox Gambit by Yoon-Ha Lee. And the reasons for this are that Raybearer is a very highly anticipated read because of all the things people have said about it. Everybody I know who has read it has loved it, and it is a fantasy with like court intrigue and stuff in it, and fantasy is ultimately my favorite genre, but Yoon-Ha Lee is a very favorite author of mine, so if anyone can write a sci-fi that would beat out a highly anticipated fantasy, it would be Yoon-Ha Lee. And I'm about 10 pages into Ninefox Gambit and have already come up against a bunch of terms that I don't know the meanings of. I'm somewhat familiar with them because I've heard Angela talk about them before, because she's the one who has most recommended this series that I've seen, but there are also a lot of words I'm very confused about, so I've just rewatched Angela's video about the world building of Ninefox Gambit, and now I feel a lot less confused and am very much looking forward to continuing it. Some things that make this somewhat iffy for me are that it's about a character who is part of a pretty nasty controlling regime who are putting down heretics, which sounds really bad, and I'm thinking that part of the story is going to be about coming around to not being on the side of this regime anymore. That's one of my predictions, but I don't know anything yet. So I'm excited to see where that will lead. And yeah, I'm going to start reading Raybearer so that I'm reading them at the same time, and it'll go up and down depending on my mood because I'm a mood reader, but I'm hoping to mostly read them at the same time, and then I will be letting you know how they measure up against each other as we go. Hey, so it's like the 8th or 9th Tuesday, and I switched over to reading Raybearer on audiobook because I am in very much an audiobook mood right now, and I thought that might help me get into it, and it really did. I have gotten to chapter 10 already, which is in part 2, and it's 20% of the way through the book, so that's cool. And I'm really liking it so far. It's got really interesting concepts. One of the concepts is that our main character, and this is told right at the beginning, is half some kind of magical creature, and it's a type of magical creature that follows rules very close to what Genie in the Disney Aladdin movie follows, where if somebody captures you in this case, or in the case of the other Genie, rubs the lamp, they get 3 wishes, and the magical creature has to do whatever the wish is even if they don't want to. And this evil lady captured this magical creature and used 2 of her wishes to get a magical castle that was wonderfully defended, to have a baby with the magical creature, and now she gets to use her 3rd wish on to make her daughter this magical creature do, which I don't know how that transfer of the wish, the 3rd wish, to this other magical creature would work, but that's what happened. And so the other story that this book reminds me of is Ella Enchanted. In her story has a gift from birth that she's given by a fairy, where she has to do whatever anybody says if they say it in a declarative sentence as an order, and she obviously has to keep this secret so that anybody can't just force her to do whatever they want whenever they want. And she goes through a lot of inner turmoil trying to fight against this, and there's a particular scene at the end of Ella Enchanted that reminds me very, very much of a particular scene that I've just passed at the 3rd waypoint in Raybearer, and I really liked seeing those parallels. But our magical creature, half magical creature, main character, is really interesting. I really like her. She's a really sweet person, and she's one of those never been loved by her parents, common YA kids, that are so, like, lovable, and you just want to give them a hug because they haven't been hugged. And she's turned out very well personality-wise, considering that. And the concepts of having to be on the council of a king's court to kill him is really interesting, and the way those dynamics work with this basically polyamory relationship between the king and his 13 or 12 advisors is really interesting, and figuring out how our main character is going to fit into all that, and seeing the very terrible sexism that is probably what led the evil lady to be to aim her evilness in the specific way it's aimed, is very interesting, and I'm excited to see our main character hopefully burn that particular statute to the ground. And yeah, I'm having a lot of fun, but now I have to read a bunch more of Ninefox Gambit to catch up, so that I'm almost a third of the way through that as well. Okay, so it's a couple days later, and I got into Ninefox Gambit, and I got really into it, and I'm now almost 2/3 of the way done instead of just a third, and I'm just really enjoying it. The main character, Karis, has been an infantry commander for a while of this kind of evilish, very controlling regime, because she witnessed something that people aren't supposed to witness or be able to deal with. She got pulled off to deal with another thing that involves that. I'm trying to be non-spoilery while also explaining some things, but it's quite early on. She gets pulled to do a very dangerous mission that only people who think a certain way can handle, and the commanders think that she is capable of thinking that way. They give her the option to ask for whatever she might need to complete this mission, and she says that she would like to have a certain commander who exists in, like, downloaded your intelligence to the cloud form to be given to her to use as a resource for strategy, because he never lost a battle as long as he was a commander when he was alive regularly. And so that character is named Jadao, and I really like him, as Angela does, and I really like Karis. And one of the things I really like about her is that she has been a commander for quite a while and has lost a lot of people, but she hasn't let that shut down her empathy. She still gets to know all of her subordinates as much as she can, and even the droids, who are quite a bit like droids from Star Wars as far as personality-wise and duties-wise, and the fact that most people don't consider them people, but the occasional person does. She cares about them and remembers individual little personality quirks about them and grieves when they die, and I really appreciate that, because a lot of times when you put characters in those situations, you have that be an explanation for why they have shut down their emotions and they don't let anyone close anymore. But she's not like that. She just lets herself grieve and makes the hard decisions anyway, but doesn't value herself over any of her people. She actually would rather put herself in danger than any of the people she commands, and that's really cool. And then Jadao is supposedly mad, which is very interesting to me because I am very interested in mental illness and neurodivergence, and mad isn't, you know, a thing. So I've been wanting to know, like, what exactly does that mean? And we find out as soon as we're introduced to him that it's because he's considered that because he killed a bunch of people with no apparent reason all of a sudden after being very reliable for a very long time, and nobody knows why, and that's like the only truly incomprehensible thing in his history. And so I've been very interested in that, figuring out what's going on with that and what's going on with his brain, to see if, like, there's anything mirroring any real world mental illness or neurodivergency, or if it's just some weird thing that happened that has some outside force other than what's going on inside his head. We've now engaged in some space battles, which were also very interesting, so I'm enjoying it quite a bit. And I'm wondering, and now I need to read some more Raybearer because at the moment I am enjoying Ninefox Gambit more. So I need to find out if I get farther into Raybearer, will I enjoy it as much. And I have also read a few pages of it in physical format so that I can figure out how the names are spelled and try to like nail some of those things down, because sometimes I just enjoy physical books more because I'm able to like reread things and absorb things a little differently. So I want to make sure that I give Raybearer that chance as well. So I have reached the 2/3 point of Raybearer, and I'm really enjoying it. The romance is really sweet. One of the booktubers who I watched and recommended this talked about how the love interest calls the main character Sunshine, and that's like really adorable. And there's a lot of sunshine and sun imagery in this book along the lines of the Ray part of Raybearer, and I've been really enjoying that. I've been really enjoying a lot of the imagery and the themes. There are like destiny versus choices you make themes, and lots of found family with the King's Council thing going on, and the main character figuring out, is she a monster because of the things she's been forced to do, or is she more than her past actions? And I've been really enjoying that. And so so far I'm really not sure which one of these books is going to win in a toss-up, so I'm going to read the last third of each of them and then come back and tell you what I thought. But they are both very, very good in different ways, definitely, so I'll have to like figure out how I want to weigh those against each other, but I'm just generally having a really great time. So which one wins, Raybearer or Ninefox Gambit? They both pulled off their endings beautifully. They both got a lot more complicated near the end and did that speed up slow down thing where the actual timing in the story goes very fast near the climax, but the authors put in so much detail that it makes the reading a lot slower. That happened with both of them, and so I ended up switching back to the audiobook for Raybearer and really enjoyed the last third that way, and plowed through Ninefox Gambit in physical form. I fell even more in love with all of the characters in both books. I really liked the way they pulled things off, the bigger themes that they looked at, and the mysteries that were solved. But in the end, I had to give it to Raybearer, and that is because there were absolutely no drawbacks to this one. It was just exactly my taste, and I'm very much looking forward to the next book in the series. And while I am very much looking forward to the next book in this series, and it was amazing, and quality-wise, there are no problems, it just deviated very slightly from my personal taste near the end, and that there was a lot of death and gore and really sad things going on, and some very bad things described in a bit more detail than I like. So, because solely of personal taste, it lost to Raybearer. And so that goes along with what I had predicted. The next book that Raybearer will have to take on is The Sound of Stars, if it gets read, which I hope it will. And that one is also fantasy versus sci-fi, so we will see if Sound of Stars can pull it out, or if it will be, as I predicted, Raybearer takes all. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!